When I rejoined the diplomatic missions after my maternity, my son was only 4.5 months.
As someone who had the authority to take or influence the decision whether to approve the visa or not, what tips would you give?
And you are the person who would be traveling overseas. You need to see what is being submitted. What is the minimum benchmark of the academic score? Australia is strict about gaps. Can you just give us some suggestions for universities? I don't do that.
I've heard specifically UK, Australia, they are accepting the sanction letter from some typical banks or some preferred players.
There is no favorite bank or an NBFC for any particular high commission. For them, everything is the same. But everything needs to be genuine.
Hello aspirants. Today, I am talking to someone who has been a banker, an IELTS certified trainer, and ex-visa officer with the New Zealand High Commission and official with the Australia High Commission. Sheenu is now helping students who want to study abroad through her consultancy EduNation. Among other achievements, she boasts about a 95% conversion rate of visa application. Along with her team, she facilitated 70 plus visa during COVID in 2021 and ongoing. She is your guide for improving the quality of your university and visa application. Let's talk to her and find out how you can increase your chances of studying abroad. Hello friends, my name is Aman and I am one of the founding member at Gyandhan and your host for today. Hi Sheenu.
Hi Aman, good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Doing good. So first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm sure the next 20 to 25 minutes that we are going to speak are going to be very beneficial for the students and whoever watches this podcast.
I hope so, and I aim at adding value too. Right. So yes.
So Sheenu, I would like to start because somebody with you who has 20 plus years of experience across industries and latest being working in the High Commission at Australian Embassy. Why made this switch of starting a company for helping students with their study abroad dreams? So what made you make that switch after having such a successful career? Just would want to start from there.
Okay. The reasons are wider. The 22 years of journey, as you've just stated, I had never thought that I will start a business of my own.
Okay.
So in fact, I come from
an accidental entrepreneur.
It was an accident, definitely, but an informed accident, as I can say, a well thought of. I come from a service, background completely. My family, nobody has done a business ever. But what happened was over the years when I was with the banking sector, specifically as part of diplomatic missions, when we assess applications across categories, we see a lot of gaps. At times, whether it is a visitor visa application or a study permit or a work visa applications. Over the course of time, I realized that these gaps are from the other side as well, wherein the applications were not attended to properly or they were not serviced properly. So there were a couple of triggers which made me get deeper into understanding the markets. And I started my research. The, entrepreneurship was still not on plan at that point in time. But I started to understand what could be the gap. Where is it that the applicant is being, left stranded, or, is it lack of knowledge from a consultant's perspective? So over the few months, I started to develop an understanding. And in those few months, my son was also growing. So just to let you know, Aman, when I started working, when I rejoined the diplomatic missions after my maternity, my son was only 4.5 months. And the time when I decided to leave the job sector, he was about 5 years. So I was done witnessing his milestone events on WhatsApp and videos. So I was like, I need to amalgamate the two things, my professional motive and obviously the personal one. So I thought, what needs to be done? And over a quarterly meeting, I spoke with my ex-boss, who was handing over a new responsibility to me at the Australian High Commission. And we were all very excited that there's a new project coming our way. But in that meeting, I decided to put my papers, which came as a shocker for everybody. But the reasons were only, as I've stated, the two of them, because I was really driven to contribute and do my bit and use my knowledge of being a banker, of being, an ex-visa officer, of being an official with the Australian High Commission, to doing something which is right. Applicants used to come to us, they would cry over the phone at times and they would feel that they were not informed properly about the status of the application. So that was something that I did not want to do. And I would just not want to, I would feel bad if I would refuse an application at the blink of an eye, just because the volumes are high. So that was the very moment, this was in 2019, that I decided that come what may, I think it is my duty to make some changes. And secondly, I want to spend some more time with my son, Kabir. So I took that call. This was around October 2019. So I left the work sector completely. My family was against my decision, of course, because they said, why
they
are you?
Are.
Of course, and they generally are. The toughest people to convince is your family. It took me about 41 years of my life to convince my mother that I'm doing something right, till about last year, when when something came on a newspaper and she was like, okay, she's doing something right. So till that time, it was all a mirage for her. So that's when, I started the idea. We started doing some groundwork. I took my certifications, because for anything to begin, the foundation needs to be strong. And I'm a person of those principles. So I wanted the bearings to be very, very strong. So I got my master trainer certification from the British Council for an IELTS program. I did that, and we were just about to get the name of the company formally finalized. And we had thought that in March 2020, we would be inaugurating the office. My husband did the office very beautifully.
That was the time of COVID.
The same day, when the nationwide lockdown happened, just about 2 days later was the inauguration of the office. So, but what I did, I was like, I don't look back, and I don't get away from my decisions. So I was like, karna to hai. We need to do this. So the day the nationwide lockdown happened, I enrolled my first student for IELTS on Zoom.
Wow.
So, so I started off, because that was the plan, that I have to start come what may. And I enrolled my student. We used to live in a farmhouse at that point in time. So I dedicated a little area of the house to my office. I started independently. No support, no office, no staff, nothing. But my son in front of me, of course, and my family. That's a very, very big support. Family support is the nucleus. So did that, and started with my IELTS training. So till by the end of 2020, I had enrolled 53 students for IELTS.
That's a very good number.
Yes.
For a first
absolutely.
year.
It just started the ball. As we say, if your intent is in the right direction, and if your goal, where you're headed, everything starts manifesting. And I believe in energies. So from one student, I got a reference to 2 more students. So it just kept growing, and I on Zoom had no idea that the reach could be exponential. So I had trained students, wherein if it would have been an offline model, I may have restricted myself to Faridabad initially. But I trained students from Hyderabad, Bijnor, Singapore, Dubai. So, and it was unfathomable, if you ask me. So that was the kind of blessing that I got that year. And with Kabir right next to me. So he knew most of my trainees by then. He would say hello, hi to all of them. So it was amazing as a journey. And so with those 53 students, we built a pipeline. Then when the lockdown started opening, air flights started operating, and countries started opening up, borders, these students moved to the step 2. Step 2 was to start working on their applications. Not all manifested. Few, because the parents were worried, COVID conditions, it may be risky. So there were some people who decided to stay back in the country and study, because obviously safety is first. But then they did their IELTS, they wanted to watch. So now they are going. But out of those 53, we sent about 32 students in 2021 and 2022. So within a gap of, because 2021 again was a year which had huge timelines when we talk about visa decisions. So it took time. So this is how the decision transitioned from me being a service person to getting into entrepreneurship. And since then it's been like this, and then,
It's quite interesting. You mentioned that when you were looking at the visa application, and you figured out that, okay, hey, this application that the student has submitted is not up to the mark. So as someone who had the authority to take or influence the decision whether to approve the visa or not, what tips would you give to somebody who is applying for visa for Australia and in general?
Any country.
As someone who has seen across all the student profiles, all kind of documents. So what is your tip for a typical students who are planning to study abroad for a visa filing process and preparation?
This is very crucial. And I would say, if we are able to understand this bit, Aman, a lot of it can be sorted. I would suggest every student to engage with their application. For that matter, every applicant, not just a study visa. When we were assessing work permit applications, visitor visa and study visa, what we've seen is, especially with study visa, students and parents are not aware what college they're getting into. When we used to interview them, so New Zealand High Commission's main study visa center was in Mumbai, but we used to get those assessments to us, and when we used to interview them, we would understand that the students are not aware what program they're enrolled into.
I'm very surprised. You're saying the students are, when they're coming in the visa interview,
they won't know. They were not prepared. They won't know. There were huge gaps with the program understanding. What program are they applying to? What college are they applying to? So and why? There is nothing wrong in trusting a consultant, but a lot is happening in the market. So it's important for the student and the family to engage. And this is, at the end of the day, your visa.
Yeah.
Right? And you are the person who would be traveling overseas. You need to see what is being submitted. So I understand my clients today, they trust me a lot, but I literally insist every time I talk to a student and family, it is my underlying criteria when we sign that you need to engage. We would be hand holding, but not spoon feeding.
Right.
When we finally upload the visa, we are making sure that we are sending every bit of a record to what is being uploaded on the High Commission's website, on the VFS's portal, and we make sure, and even if they say, no, aapne kiya hoga, it would be fine. No. See, there is a very thin line between being professional, the professional trust, and the personal trust. We do not mingle both the things, right? My equations with clients have become very personal. Students are in touch with me even after graduating. But things which are important for them from a point of view wherein their careers are at stake, we would not compromise on that. So I would say it is important for students to engage with their applications, see what documents are being submitted, work on your statement of purpose.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because what has happened in the last 3-4 years, a lot of companies have emerged and they have literally made it a transitional business.
Yeah.
And it's not a transitional business at the end of the day.
Absolutely not.
What I have seen happening in the industry is that a student approaching them, this online big players, I won't say big online players who are there, and they are being consulted over the phone, which is fine, but during that consultation, all they are being told that, okay, hey, this is your profile, you will get an admission, you will get an offer letter from this college, we will do everything for you, go for the visa interview. Sure. And what you have mentioned, that is important because students are not engaging. Because they are not being told.
They're not being informed. See, the motto is, as you rightly use the word, this business cannot be transactional. One. Second, this cannot be worked on a laptop only. Honestly, while the world is going digital, we need to understand one thing. We are talking about a student's future. Right? And how would you want to do it if your family member was to go overseas? I'm a very emotional person when it comes to work. Secondly, we are not following a product orientation out here. This is not a shop culture. This is a service oriented industry completely, end to end. And we're talking about a lot of research that goes into place in understanding the student's profile. Having said that, not just, okay, this is what your score is, you can go to this college. No. There is a lot of questioning and answering that goes into understanding what a student is capable of, understanding their capabilities, extracurricular, what is it that they've taken as initiatives. There are so many things, sustainability initiatives, green initiatives, and there is a lot happening in schools today, MUNs, diplomathons. So we need to understand what has a child achieved, to inculcate that in the profile, match it with relevant and deserving options, share with the student, and then ask the student to go through them. Not just inform them, okay, fine, I've shortlisted 5 options, we are applying there. Absolutely not. So what we do in our office is, we give the students 2 days to share the documents, to create the profiles after the counseling. We give them 2 days, 48 hours. Once they have shared all the documents, we take 48 hours to share course options. Create a profile, send them course options on a good, nice, self-explanatory spreadsheet, which from a parent's point of view has details of the finances also.
Makes sense.
Expected tuition expense, expected living expenses, health surcharge, everything.
Right.
And it's very easy. And obviously, we are available over a phone call and a message or even a meeting. So if they have any queries, so then that brainstorming happens. Without that, we don't proceed. I'm very strict about it, and I've made it very clear with the team also. Because today they may feel a bit irritated. They may compare, the other person did not ask me anything, but then I know tomorrow they will actually be happy about it, and we may be at a stage on the same page. Right. So I'm looking at it from a long-term perspective.
Makes sense.
Clearly.
So again, your experience, that's very relevant. So I'm again going back
absolutely,
to that.
Absolutely.
So for a typical student who is planning to study abroad, let's say from your experience of students whom you were screening for Australia.
Yes.
So what is it that you're looking for in an application? Like what kind of application would you definitely approve, and what kind of application will you not approve at all?
Okay. So here I would want to say that we, as of today, at the scenario that we are in, and with the dynamics of the overseas education changing like a lot by the day, we are looking at it from a university's perspective. So if I were to ratio it, 70% is what the university wants.
Okay.
That's important, because if they don't accept applications, we cannot do anything. 30% is what the student entails, for sure. And as I'm always centric this side, but now if I want to see that a university, say a top ranked university, will not accept a college or a university pass out from Punjab and Haryana, we can't do much about it. There are exclusions. But what we would do is, I would not want to discourage my student as well. So, but then a couple of universities will not be the only options for such students. There are other options, other universities. So not all have banned completely, but not all are available. So that we would want to look at the university criteria. What is the minimum benchmark of the academic score? Australia is strict about gaps. So does the student have gaps? So we gauge from that side, then we match it from this side. So when we are suggesting university and course options, we go by the requirements of the university and then credentials of the student, and then match it. That's why even if a lot of times parents come to us in the first meeting, can you just give us some suggestions for universities? I don't do that. Because, you know, as an example, if I were to say, okay, a student, I don't know what his or her score is, but I've given them, okay, you know what, you can apply to Monash University. Now the student will start thinking about Monash University. I'm going to study in one of the best universities in Australia. Then later I tell them, now give me your mark sheets, give me your documents, let me work on your profile. And I see that the student has about 60% in 12th, has a gap, and Monash doesn't take a student who's scored a 60%. I am discouraging my student. I'm kind of, you know, mellowing his or her dream, and I'm kind of, you know, dampening the trust that the parent had with me. So that is the reason we do not follow a product orientation. Hence, everything depends now on what the university wants. Basic criteria. Yes, if I see that there is a scope of deviating, we send recommendations also. Look, I know the student's profile is very strong, while there is a gap of 6 months, but I think if you can consider that will be great. So suggestive side.
That should come with you.
We do that. We do recommendations for scholarships for deserving students. We send recommendations for slight gaps if they are justifiable gaps, but they need to be genuine, like absolutely genuine. And we also look at financial standings for sure. Yes.
Makes sense. So let's move on to understand the current market. First thing about the exams. So have you seen a decrease in the popularity of exams like IELTS because of the introduction of other alternatives like Duolingo, English test?
The demand has gone slightly low for IELTS because people are now becoming aware that there is a PTE. Now, PTE is a Pearson test of English which originated in Australia. Earlier, people were not much aware of this test as well, but in the last 2-3 years, owing to COVID situation, and PTE is a computer delivered test. So the results come faster. The structure is slightly simpler. I'm an advocate of IELTS, personally, if you ask me, not because I'm a master trainer for IELTS, but I find it beneficial even in the long term because the learnings are comprehensive in IELTS. It's more structured. When we are training, you're learning a lot of things about listening, reading, writing. PTE is a combination. However, the basic idea is to get through the score and be able to, you know, match the benchmark requisites of a university and go ahead. So you don't need to learn a lot. You have to score. But with Duolingo, what was happening was Duolingo was introduced specifically during COVID because it's a monitored test that you could take in your home also. But now, while universities have still not completely waived that you can take, not all of them, a lot of universities are still accepting Duolingo. A student coming from North India or a student coming from Gujarat, if they insist on appearing for Duolingo, I will have apprehensions. See, when we also, my credibility would also be at stake if I'm, you know, processing an average application to a university and still saying the student either wants a waiver of English or student wants to take a Duolingo. For that student, I would suggest that they take a PTE or an IELTS and we are ready to train them. Because one, a student is from a city where the country doesn't entertain a lot these days, any country, you know. Second, the student is saying, ma'am, I want an IELTS waiver. Ma'am, I want to take Duolingo. So we tell them the ultimate goal is to get a visa. While While we don't guarantee a visa, but we can at least brighten the chances of getting a visa. These are the pointers which matter in the journey. So yes.
Makes sense. Now, coming to the application process, what has happened in the last few years is the number of students going abroad has simply blotted away, right? When we started Gyandan back in 2016, approximately 3 lakh students used to go abroad.
Yes.
And last year, approximately 9 lakh students went abroad.
Yes.
And a lot of is because of, people like you and us who has made it more accessible for an average Indian to think about those dreams. Right. Earlier, students who were, connected, let's say somebody who is already studying there, them, or there is a relative, they used to go a lot, or if you are top of the class, if you are very meritorious student, then only you used to go. True. But now an average Indian is also thinking about it, both from the admission point of view, from the finance point of view, because the financing is also easily available comparatively. Right. So what would you recommend for somebody who is planning to study abroad? Let's say somebody who graduated from a average college, tier 2, tier 3, with average ACADS 60-65% or so, and planning to go abroad. The intent is a better life. That's it, right? Most of the people are going abroad. They
have to standard of living should be good.
So how should they approach? How should they select? Okay, hey, for me right now, this is the best country. This is the course that maybe I can opt for, which will cost me lesser as well. So this is such a complicated process. How to navigate through it? What would you recommend?
This is my favorite. Seriously. First things to everybody, dream. You have to dream about it, to be honest. A lot of times when I'm interacting with parents, especially in schools, when we conduct workshops, when we go to universities and I have these interactions with parents, I have seen, and it comes from my family or from any family in our circuit also. Most of us, even 20 years ago, they may have wanted to send us overseas. But that thought, it's going to be really, really costly. Or, that needs to be broken. That gap needs to be filled in. And we need to first inform the parents that it is not only an expensive affair to send your child outside of India. One, the power of leveraging. So we conduct sessions on financial literacy. I'm doing the reverse right now, to understand, because once the parents are convinced, then I can actually motivate my child to dream further, So that's why around this, that yes, your child can go overseas and see, as you rightly said, Aman, the long-term goal is career, employability. While India is definitely on the global map now, and we are growing as a country. It wouldn't be wrong to accept that we are still facing challenges when we talk about matching the qualifications to jobs, and employability still remains a question in a lot of sectors, right? And I'm sure over the years the situation is going to get better, but as of today, qualified individuals are not able to get justified job opportunities, and there are layoffs happening. There's a lot of hire and fire. So what to do? Secondly, in India, the perception is once you move out of school and you do your bachelor's, that is the party time. Okay? And after a child completes bachelor's, parents say, okay, now let's get serious. You need to do a master's, because now eventually you will have to start, working or taking up a business. In an overseas education, I would like to highlight, if a child is going to any overseas destination after 12th, after completion of grade 12, and they do a bachelor's, honestly, they are qualified to such an extent once they complete their undergrad course, they may or may not choose to do a master's. Because the exposure is such, it's a combination of theory, in-class facilitation, a lot of industry exposure. They are into practical implementations, and so much that happens in a university campus that they can choose not to do a master's, and they are still going to get amazing employment opportunities. So what I'm trying to do over here is, when I'm talking to parents, I'm telling them you can cut down on the cost of masters in India. Right? Because that's also a cost. And Indian education today is not quite cost effective. It is costly. If you're not wanting to compromise, not every child goes to an IIM or an IIT. So there are parents, and not every student is able to crack DU. CUET has become very complex. So we look at private universities. They are quite expensive because their infrastructures are modern. But what after that? What about employability? So from that perspective, we try to engage our parents, and we are trying to make them understand, as far as cost is concerned, this is the total cost. You're not incurring it, at source as of today. It's a leveraging. It will be in bits and pieces. It can be planned. So we, in our office, I try to hold that conversation and break the myth. So, that opens up their understanding, and then they become hopeful that yes, now my child can dream of going overseas, and then the child is mine.
Yeah, definitely.
The parents need to be convinced.
That awareness plays a very important role.
It does.
In fact, whenever we go to the colleges and universities, same as you, one of the things we talk about is, okay, hey, you are thinking it will take you 40 lakh rupees to go to study abroad, but you can segment that 40 lakh rupees.
Absolutely.
Right? There is a scholarship section.
Absolutely.
You will get a $3,000, $5,000 kind of scholarship. You can do part-time jobs.
Part-time work, right? As we said, when I used to look at applications in the embassy, they were not aware of these things. So it is our duty, I feel so. That is what I'm doing when I left the embassy last. That I am trying to create that awareness as much as we can, talking to parents, talking to family members in my house, so that they know, okay, fine, no, it's not a 40-50 lakh kharcha right in the beginning. It's phased. So it can be planned. My child can work as well. So it can be bridged, and there are possibilities, and jobs are amazing outside. We just have to take that big leap, and the first leap, that's about it. So
And how important is an education loan sanction letter? What role does it play in a visa application?
Oh, it is the primary documentation for if a student or a parent is applying for an education loan, even from a university's perspective. Once the student gets an offer letter, the second stage is financial assessment. So if they are self-funding, obviously we need those bank statements and income tax returns and computation. If it is being funded by Gyandhan or or a financial institution, a sanction letter is primary. We cannot just say we've applied for a loan. No, we need to submit the sanction letter, and the sanction letter can be 1 day old, but we need to submit it to the university for them to approve. Okay, the funds are available for the students' tuition fee expense, living expense, and all miscellaneous expenses, and then they proceed. They give us the unconditional offer letter or the confirmation of acceptance, which is a major document to apply for visa. So from a financial aspect, bank loans, sanction letter is the backbone.
Okay.
So it cannot be proceeded without.
So usually I've heard specifically UK, Australia, they are accepting the sanction letter from some typical banks or some preferred players. So let's say a new company coming in the market, and they are sanctioning the loan. That is not being I would say catered to, or that is something being looked upon as a negative thing. Is it so?
Due diligence is important. So there is the high commissions do not have a preferred bank on their list. But what's been happening is even the established banks are getting into means and ways wherein we have seen fake fixed deposits from a very established bank, fake sanction letters from one of the top banks of the country. So what they're doing now is they have incorporated, and any high commission, I'm talking about a British high commission or an Australian high commission, they have incorporated reference checks. Verification processes have become very, very stringent. So if I am giving a sanction letter from any new NBFC, so it is accepted, but we will need to give the contact details of the branch head, and it could be all the branches. So if there is a branch in Delhi and a branch in Hyderabad, we would not know where they will do the verification. So it needs to be genuine. They don't have any favorites, but what they need is a genuine sanction letter.
If you get a sanction letter for a new NBFC, then a high commission from the backend can reach out to any POC, any center for the verification, and they need to verify it.
So what we do now, this is also something that I do. I don't know about others. Just generally, if there is a very nascent NBFC or like an AU bank, when it started, it was very new. But they used to do so we added the registration certificate of the bank for ease of operation for the High Commission, and nobody does it. But me being an ex-banker, I thought, okay, you know what? It's a new bank. They may have some sort of doubts or queries. Let me just ratify it in advance. So to avoid the back and forth of email,
Got it.
You know, so I did that, you know, once. So that can be done. This is just a feedback that I can share with my fellow industry mates as well. And so we need to put in some extra effort. See, if I were to, you know, send my child to an overseas destination, how would I play my role out there? That is how we need to think about. So honestly, so there is no favorite. There is no favorite bank or an NBFC for any particular high commission. For them, everything is the same. But everything needs to be genuine when it is verified. It needs to be properly verifiable.
Got it. So I think the question that I have in mind right now, and maybe many students who are watching this will have as well. As of today, right now, if you have to recommend 2 countries.
Okay. And, so you've given me a choice. Okay.
2 courses.
2 courses.
A generic courses. Somebody who is coming from background like BCom, BBA.
Right. Okay.
Right. For them, which will be these 2 countries and 2 courses right now, as of the conditions today, would you recommend?
All right. You've left me with a tough choice though, but I will still try. When we talk about, so what I'll do is I'll give you one country which is a bigger country and one from a cost perspective as well. So we could look at Australia.
Okay.
Australia and US. Let me just please pick one more country, if it's okay. Australia and US. From a cost perspective, we could look at countries like Netherlands. So as the next destination. And when we talk about course options, I will take 3 segments of course options. I will take the leeway of that for a student who's from a science background. So for a student with a physics, chemistry and bio, it's not just MBBS. So let's not restrict to MBBS only. You could get into biotechnology. You could get into microbiology. So those are the upcoming courses. Research is picking up big time in these courses. For a student who is from a physics, chemistry and math with computer science or without computer science, you could go with data analytics. You could go with AI. You could go with robotics. Then again, information technology with management. Are combination courses that these students can look at. For students who have taken up commerce has their study program, accountancy, business studies, economics, and all of that. Well, there is a wide variety of program. You just don't need to do a BBA or an MBA standalone. You could take up financial analytics. You could take up business analytics. I'm stressing upon analytics as a stream, and honestly, all the 3 stream students can take this as a program. And this is in demand. Right? So make your choices. Don't restrict again. When we talk about students who've taken up humanities, huge platter out there. International relations, mass communications, developmental studies. We're focusing a lot on countries' developments, you know. So developmental studies and logistics, supply chain, port facilities. So don't just stick to a humanities and fine arts. You can.
You've cheated. You've mentioned a lot of courses.
As I said, this was a tough question, but you know, I couldn't have stopped because I don't want to be unfair to the students who are watching me out here.
Makes sense.
So that's
right. So Sheenu, thanks a lot. It was
most welcome.
Lovely speaking to you, and I hope this was very helpful. It was helpful for me to understand a lot about visa applications, specifically for countries like Australia.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks a lot for
Thank you, Aman. Thank you, and I really hope that you know, there is some fodder that we've been able to share here for good information, good decisions. Wish you all the best, and thank you, Aman, for having me. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Yes.